And good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to this June 23rd. Why do I have to look? I know it's June 23rd. It's Corey's birthday. I should know that, right? I should know that. No, I didn't make double check. It's Monday, June 23rd. Welcome. Make Us a Move Us podcast. How are you doing this morning, folks? Whew. Hopefully you had a good weekend. It was hot. I got burnt. Oh, you ever have that burn where you're burnt and you can feel the heat radiating off you and you still got chills? Yeah, that's me. I go from Casper to lobster back to It's Casper. So good times all the way around there. Hopefully you've had a great weekend. We got the final week here before we got what? We're coming up on the end of June, right? We got a week left. Next week, 4th of July. Oh, summer is flying by, folks. How are you? How are you? How I can't even speak this morning. I got so much. All right. So, this episode, what are we talking about today? Today's show is what is today's show? Oh, is this still fun? Is this still fun? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Is this still fun for us to do? We didn't start this business to feel exhausted. We didn't start it to feel uninspired. We didn't start it to be stuck in survival mode. But the fun's gone. Now what? Right? So we're going to break down what to do when that creative business just doesn't feel so creative anymore, and it doesn't matter, whether you're feeling burnout, bored, or just plain over it. It's kind of like your gut check to figure it out. Figure out if it's time to pivot, it's time to pause, or if it's time to push through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to how to recognize when the fun is your best business compass. Which way we're going with it. Why burnout might be clouding your next move, not clouding. Like what do I do here? What a smart pivot really looks like. We don't have to do any dramatic rebrands or things like that. How do we can reset without feeling guilty, and then when to push forward, and when to rethink everything. So it's not going to be about quitting. It's about getting honest with yourself, making moves that actually serve you, and finding your way back to the joy in your business. So what do I need from you? I need to know who you are, where you're from, what's in your cup, and what the weather is like in your area. Those are the things that I need. We got a tropical vibe Celsius rocking this morning. And then what are your 5 things? 5 things that you are going to accomplish today. So for us, DTF that needs to get done. I've got cut glitter HTV that needs to get done. We've got temporary tattoos that need to get done. I've got quotes that we need to get done and order supplies. Those are the 5 big things that we're working on getting done today. So let me know all of that in the comments. We'll catch up with those. And hey, you can find all of our descriptions, all of our links in the descriptions. Yeah, go down there, find all that. We'll check in and we'll see what we got here. What's up, Chuck? Good morning to you. Renee says, "Happy birthday, Corey." I'm sure she's watching, and if she is watching, she's had a busy day today. We've got this week for us is busy. We got Corey's birthday today. We've got Krista's MRI follow up this afternoon. We've got baseball, I believe, tomorrow. Nothing on Wednesday, but Wednesday is kind of the prep day. Corey has surgery on Thursday. No clue what time. No clue. I don't think it'll take that long. Maybe an hour, 2 hours tops. I really think it's going to be done in an hour. We'll find out more on Wednesday when they do it. So then Thursday, out of the picture all day, will be closed. Some stuff will get processed. We'll keep you updated on that. And then because I'll still work from the hospital or from the clinic, where I'm not even sure. I think we're just having it done at their surgery center. So that's on Thursday, and then Friday we'll be back in here, and there's the week. So busy week going on this week. Barb, good morning, North Central Minnesota, 62 and cloudy. Oh yeah. What's the temp here? What is the temp? I mean, because it's been hot. It felt hot out there this morning with this dog out at like 6 o'clock. Yeah, it's 82 and it already feels like 87. So we're in for another nice one today. Probably heat indexes of like 110 or so. So good times. One of the 5 things: order blanks for jobs, invoicing, inventory organization, 3D printing, sewing alterations. Lovely, lovely. Jenny says, "Happy birthday, Corey." Right. This is morning 83, the way to 101 in Chicagoland. Walking outside is like walking to a sauna, right? Breathing through a wet towel. Usually we don't have this till July, so can't wait for July. Water in the bottle, coffee in the cup, working my top 5. Hi, Chuck and Renee from Barb. Hi, Chuck, Barb, and Jenny from Renee. Hi, Jenny from Barb. And Jenny says, "We are definitely in a heat wave here too. I need to order supplies and get ready for an event this weekend." Very, very nice. And Cindy says, "It's my Chihuahua won't even go outside hot." It is. I'm drinking a creamsicle rain energy drink. How is that? Is that creamsickly? Because those ones are good. Um, 5 things: stone a cup topper, dome earrings, cut studs, assemble studs, print polymer clay cutters. Print polymer clay putters. That was a mouthful, Cindy. Morning, Cindy. Hi, Renee from the Cindy. And Barb says, hi, Cindy. It was that hot yesterday, 92 muggy. Today, high of 72. Yeah, we were like 100, I think 114, I think was the highest heat index I saw this weekend. And it was just gross. Um, Even the pool wasn't cold, it was like, usually, you get a pool, you're, "Ooh," in there. No, it was kinda like bath water, and that's how it's gonna be, and, oh boy, good times, and I got burnt. I got burnt good, and, no fun there. None whatsoever on it. Okay, so we're gonna get into it, right? Let's just dive right into all this. We'll get stuff going, today. Because we do have I need to stay on task. I need to get stuff done. We've got our mentorship call that starts at 9:30. So if you don't know about that, you can click on the link down below and get into there. And then we go right into making things happen for today. So as we look at this, what do you start your business for, right? Yeah, we start because we loved it. Or at least we liked it enough to dream about quitting the day job. We ended up doing, right? But somewhere between those late night orders, the "Can you just add one more?" requests on, doing quotes, sending out those, never hearing anything back, so getting ghosted on those, it stopped being fun, and then it really starts to feel like a job, and even worse, a job you can't leave, right? So, it's gonna kinda be that gut check, if your business feels like a grind, it doesn't automatically mean that it's over. But it does mean that it's time to assess, right? Should you pivot? Should you pause? Should you push through it? Let's talk about how to tell the difference between it. So number one, your fun filter is your red flag detector. All right. Fun is so underrated in business. That spark you had in the beginning, it's just not a perk, it's a compass. If you consistently feel drained, dread your orders, start filling job listings at midnight, um, your business might be working against you instead of for you. It's just saying, been there, done that. How many times have I said, at least a couple times a month, I say I'm going to go work for Sarah Bryan, just be done with it all, right? So, some examples of this are, somebody who focuses on rhinestones and that's their main thing. They hated custom names, but they kept offering them because everybody else does. Turnaround time slipped because each thing is a custom piece, and then so did the reviews because it took longer to do. Well, once they dropped the add-ons, yeah, orders slowed a bit, but the joy came back and so did the better buyers. You're doing what you want to do. If the things that you're doing are causing you issues, maybe we shouldn't do that, right? Somebody else could be, feeling burnt out, and they realize that it wasn't the job that they're actually doing, but it was the customer service part that was just eating them alive. Constantly answering calls all day, all night, emails, text messages, you were chained to the business. So adding clear boundaries and set hours and, they're gonna start making you love your shop again. So what we can do in this one is let's write down 3 tasks, tasks, tasks that used to feel fun, and then ask yourself what changed in those. What could you remove? What could you outsource? What tweak can you do to bring that spark back and make you love your business again? Now, number 2 is not every dip means a dead end, right? Because creativity in business is not a straight line, right? Sloops and spirals, ups and downs, ins and outs, and some real what am I even doing energy, right? Now, just because you're in a slump, it doesn't mean your business is done. A dip might mean burnout. It might mean boredom. It could just mean a quiet season, right? But if you bail early, you might miss the comeback. So, when we've talked with a few people on things, when we go over stuff with them, especially in this part where they just feel like, what do I need to do different? And then we look at things like, what do we do with the downtime? What do we do in between this? Why aren't the orders coming in? And somebody would talk to, they had, roughly like 6 weeks where no orders came in, right? And they nearly closed. But in that time, they really figured out how to photograph their product lines better. They understood their customers better. They started looking at what they needed to change in their business. And when their seasonal sports started, hey, they were ready, and it was their best month ever. Something we have to think about is that if we are dependent on one niche, it can have those ups and downs of times. We can look at, sports. If you are somebody who provides for schools a lot and your school isn't open year round, you're going to have that lull in June, July, and part of August. So it's just something to consider. Use that time to get better at what you're doing with them and see if we can fill in that time behind it. I don't know about you, but I've fallen in this where we've launched stuff and it's just flopped, right? And then you just wonder, why am I even doing this? Why do I even have it here? And then you just kind of rework it a little and add some, twists, some little pizzazz to it. And next thing you know, that thing's going out like gangbusters. It just kind of sells out, sells itself. And the problem wasn't us or the customers. It was just the angle that we were presenting it. So if you're falling into this and you're not sure, how about you just take a pause? We don't create, we don't post, we don't brainstorm, we don't do anything with the business. Good time to, think about this week. Do it next week, this weekend, next weekend, 3-day weekend. Think about it then, Do I feel tired? Do I feel bored? Am I ready to quit? Your answer will point your way of what you need to do. Now, anybody that's been in business, 10 years, we've had issues of things up and down and all the way around. And, pivoting isn't failure, it's feedback. If something isn't working, pivoting doesn't mean you failed. It means you listened. Your business is allowed to grow with you. Now, sometimes what worked before doesn't fit or work anymore. And sometimes your audience wants something you didn't plan for. And then that's your opportunity. So, a sticker seller keeps getting requests for branded decals from local businesses. Well, they resisted and thought that it would ruin their aesthetic. When they finally gave in, that B2B clients started tripling their income. Why? You're doing the same thing. It's just a lateral point to it, right? We've all done that. Oh, whether you produce it or you have somebody else produce it for you, you can offer it. All right. Maybe when we look at this, like, we kind of fell into the fundraising side of things. We were doing, team stores, or we were doing stores with our retail and, doing stuff here and there. But we just kind of really fell into the fundraising side of it and the team stores when one of our friends, said, "Hey, is this something that you guys could do?" We're like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do it." And then we fell in love with it. Fell in love with the community aspect of it, the systems, and most importantly, the profit. It's like, hey, all right. So what we can do when we're doing this is sit back and think, what ideas keep nudging at you? Is it a product, a client type, maybe a new offer? You know, Test it out quietly. No pressure, just curiosity. We've got at least 5 on our list of things that, we're in June that by September we'll have out, whether it be loudly or quietly. We'll have them out and see just how things go. If they work, great. If not, I'd rather I'd rather look at something and say, "Hey, it didn't work out," than look back and say, "Hey, what if I would have tried that?" What if? Because what if is it's a big thing for me. What if I would have done that? So I'd rather do and fail than sit back and wonder what if. Alright, let's see, where we are with it. Linda's checking in. Hi, Linda from Barb Renee. Jerry's checking in. Morning all. Hi, Jerry from Renee. Hi, Jerry from Barb. Barb says, the best thing I did was have scheduled hours, weekends off, saying no to some jobs. Absolutely. And we that was the same for us, especially when we didn't have the storefront any longer, because even on Saturdays we were open for a little bit. But setting those 6 things, I'm in here between 5 and 6, and I'm out between 4 and 5, and I really try not to answer anything after those hours, and on the weekends, I really try not to answer anything either, just to set those boundaries. Will I? Yes, but will I every single time? No, we're after business hours. It's not gonna happen. Let's see, and Brian says 90% of the promo industry people make nothing. It's all outsourced. Yeah, I don't understand why people and I guess I do, because we were in there with that on on it. We thought, we had to make it all. We had to do it all. We had to touch every single thing. And if you're one of those people that feel that way, hey, I get it. I was there. When we started outsourcing, our business just went because now we could take that time that we were spending doing that thing and we could put that towards other things, sales, marketing, production of the stuff we could do in-house. Totally changed how we did our business. Outsourcing is one of the easiest ways to grow your business the fastest. And yes, you will have ups and downs of things not always working, not always coming out right. But that's where having having the right people in place and working with the right people is really going to help you, and that'll take time to figure out, hey, who am I using for this, who am I doing for that. We've went through, a good handful, and it wasn't always bad product or bad service or bad timelines. It just sometimes it was just a bad fit, and that's what you learn to find out with it. All right. This one, you know this one's tough because I've been there. I know, always being on E, right? You're gonna miss that exit sign. And what does that mean? Well, being exhausted all the time makes everything feel harder than it is. When you're running on fumes, every good idea feels impossible. And that doesn't mean that your business is broken. It just might mean that you're tired. And tired doesn't make good decisions. All right. Now, someone who could be ready to throw in the towel, after a nonstop month of shows and rush orders and events. Instead, they took, a couple days off. They, went ahead and went for walks. They binged a few TV shows, and what did they do is they came back with better boundaries and a killer new offer. They just took that time to regroup and feel what was going on and breathe. All right. Took a breath. You know, I had this conversation with somebody last week, and as we went through it, it's a conversation that predated probably 2 months. And, she said that she hated her business. But then when they stepped away, right, what was it? It was right after school got out. So, yeah, it had been about 2 weeks ago. They stepped out. For family trip, they took no emails. They did nothing with the business, no designs, nothing. And they realized that I don't hate my job. I just hated the pressure of always being on. That's a big thing. Always being the pressure of always being on, always being delivered. Um, you know, so what can you do to stop this? Is let's block off a no business day. No emails, no orders, no guilt. Just reset your system before it crashes. Typically for us, that's Saturday or Sunday. Even yesterday, hanging out in the pool. Our neighbors, he does brush work. He's got a tractor, does things like that, and it's a good side business. And he said he wanted some more of it, and so I asked some questions, and I said, "Here, let's." He said he wanted to promote on Facebook. I said, "Here, let's just create something for you real quick." And I had it done in probably 10 less than 10 minutes after asking him all his questions, doing everything. And The glossy look on his face was just like, "How the hell did that just happen? How'd you do that?" And it's something that I enjoy doing. I said, "Here's we typically this is what we charge for this, and your neighbor, hey, you didn't ask." I said, "Here, let me just do it for you." And that's why I did it. Seeing the joy in people's face when we go through those training sessions with them, when we go through and create those things for them. And it was like, even though I try not to work on Sundays, I couldn't help myself. I'm like, we're gonna go ahead and do it for it. And that's just what we did. All right. Number five. So we're coming to the end of these is let's push it with a purpose and not out of habit. Because sometimes we will power through simply because we don't know what else to do, you know. But continuing by default can quietly kill your business and most importantly your joy. If you're going to keep pushing, do it because the goal is worth it, not because you're scared to pivot or scared to take a break or scared just to breathe. All right. Eh, how many of you have been in this where you felt stuck, but kept saying, "This is what I've always done." Right? When when you look at that and what you have and everything in there, and take an inventory of what's going on, and you realize that 80% of your sales comes from one product. Hey, do we cut the rest and just focus on that one? Burnout drops, sales rise, focused on one thing. Unlikely, yeah. You know, how many have been that person who has tried to do everything for everyone, right? When you actually look back and say, "Hey, this is what I wanted," you can cut what you're doing in half, outsource the rest, and you can book more clients that want those things with way less stress on it. So, what do we need to do here is ask yourself on the stuff, why am I still doing it this way? If the answer isn't clear or exciting, it's time to change it up for it. So as we wrap all this up, joy truly is a business strategy. It's not fun anymore. You're not broken, all right? You're just changing. You're just evolving. And whether that's a pause, a pivot, or a push through, you have to make that constant choice and not a reaction. That's how you build something that really lasts. So when we recap this, fun is feedback. Don't ignore it. Right? Slumps aren't the end unless you decide to stop. A pivot isn't quitting, it's just adapting. Exhaustion doesn't mean failure. Uh, and five, let's just keep going, right? But only if it still feels worth it because you're allowed to shift, you are allowed to rest, you're allowed to change your mind, and none of that is your weakness. That's being the kind of business owner who really lasts. That's what we got for you today. Questions, comments, concerns. Let's hear them. What you have. Next, what's the next? What do I have on tap for Wednesdays on Wednesday's show? Because we do this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I think Wednesday is going to be how to get your first or next spiritware store without begging for orders. That's going to be Wednesday, so we will talk about there. All right, let's get in here and see. There was a hey Brian, morning Brian. Makers make, hammers hammer. That is true, 100%. Barb says, my issue with outsourcing is quality of product. I only outsource if necessity and only work with certain companies. And that's something that we all run into is end up outsource. You find the people that you like working with that produces the products you need, and then you outsource with them. Uh, Alex says, hi, 82 iced double espresso. Right now, loving having a print shop in my cool basement, work on a portable trailer to go out to beaches and vent. That was a conversation yesterday. I said, our neighbor, her office is also in her basement. I said, yeah, why everybody else, comes home and they're like, oh, it's so hot outside. I'm like, we're wearing hoodies because it's cold in the basement, isn't it? Hi, Alex from Bar. Morning, Alex from Renee. Sounds great, Alex from Jerry. Morning, Brian, aka God from Jerry. Jerry, Brian is the Lord of Printing from Jenny. Yeah, and Jenny, you are correct from Jerry. So that's what we got. Like I said, we do this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8:30 a.m. at Central Standard Time. So make sure to like, subscribe, share. Hey, affiliate links to those. It'll help keep the lights and mics on. So go ahead and use those. Cost you nothing to do that. We do have a lot of exciting stuff we're working on the rest of the summer. Some big things, some little things. We'll see what all happens with it. Yeah, we'll be back here Wednesday. So yeah, we'll be back here Wednesday this week. Surge is on Thursday, so back here Wednesday. So until next time, everybody have an amazing day. Peace, love, press on. We'll